what to do. They've been operating for 2 months. I've talked to ABC. ABC said they've talked to Aaliyah. I believe MPD is aware. I know I mentioned it to...
I don't think they do have a business license. They made an application, and on the application, they were making application for a pool hall, for a event center, and they were also calling themselves a lounge. So there was the question about exactly what they were going to be doing. I think that's why a business license kicked it to the council.
Is someone from... Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, do they have a business license or
They do not.
They do not.
Because on the application, they said Precise Village and Event Center. We actually was sending it to Brenda, but Brenda said they didn't have alcohol, so I don't know what's the deal.
Well, I mean, if there's nothing to be done, there's nothing to be done. I guess what I'm saying is that District 7 has an illegal lounge and strip club that's open every weekend, and there are people in the parking lot, and there are people out front that carry very large guns, and the last time this business was in its 1.0 version, somebody got shot and killed out front. And so I don't know who else to tell, but that we need to be aware, do something about this. Or just wait for something to happen, I guess. But
if it's an event center, but it's over, I think it's 1,500 square feet, then it's considered a conference center.
They don't have any kind of license.
Right.
And they don't have a liquor license, and yet alcohol is being sold. And,
right.
you know.
Well, that's at most event centers.
Sure. But.
So licensing, I think, can send them a cease and desist.
We can.
Great. I also just wanted to make everybody, I've been trying to make people aware over the past month that this thing's been going on.
I'll follow up with them tomorrow.
Okay. Because, and just, council, just so you know, like, this is one of the big problems that you have. We have landlords who have had people shot and killed in their parking lots, where they're allowing illegal nightclubs to operate, and then when they switch into a different space, they get to do it all over again. And it's been open for, I don't know how many times I've been texting on these party flyers that they have for 2 months now. And something inevitably is gonna happen over there, and we're gonna be behind it, not out in front of it. And I think, Stacy, one thing we've gotta start talking about is what do you do with these landlords?
Well, and this is the process I think that everybody's been talking about, and I know Betty's working on a job description to get somebody in a position with APO certification to go out and address these businesses. But we've been working with licensing on a process to get the owner manager of the business in front of municipal court. The worst they can do is a $500 fine and 6 months in jail, and more likely than not, they're not going to enforce the jail piece of it. But our authority is limited on taking them to municipal court.
And there's no way we can put a lien or do anything else to the property itself that they're allowed, because just so you know, there is another lounge. They're put a sign out front, and they're building out another lounge on the opposite side, and we haven't seen any applications for anything else over there. So another nightclub is coming into that piece of property. This is the old Normandale Shopping Center, like the place that everybody tells me that Santa Claus used to be at the top of back in the day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sat in the window.
Love it.
I'd love to, but anyway, I don't want to waste everybody's time too much more. But this is my frustration about it, is that having a review at council, they don't even have a business license for me to take away. But I figured this was a platform to talk about this.
So, excuse me, Mr. President, if they have no business license, can we not chain the doors? Are we saying we cannot do that?
No.
Mr. Zemansky, I just pulled my notes, and I did talk with Mrs. Smith to get a clarification on what she's requesting. She said she would be a pool hall only, not a lounge or an event center. And when I discussed that with you, you said you still wanted them to come before the council because they're doing all this without a license.
I mean, they've been operating for 2 months this way without a
I
license.
think some of those flyers go back to June, don't they?
Yeah.
June or July.
Or maybe June. So
That's
if,
5 months, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to come up for a business license after all of that, by all means, you can come up and ask for one.
But, Mr. President,
Mr. Mitchell?
according to legal, I don't even think we can really hold flyers because the only thing they're going to say that they did not have that event. So
That's right.
getting something off social media really does not work for us.
Well,
Got to have real pictures.
You got to have real pictures. I've been doing it for a long time.
Can
You
we
got to
not
have
have-
real pictures.
Andrew, you might need to go by.
Even though it has the address on it?
Even though it has the
Well,
address.
that's what we do. We have to have somebody who can come into court and testify that they actually saw what was going on. And that's where we've run into the problem, hence the need to have these APO certified inspectors who can go out at night or on weekends when the clubs are operating or when these businesses are operating.
Mr. President,
Ms. Beard?
all right, so if she's been operating without a business license, and she's gonna come down here and get a business license, can't we fine her
For what?
for operating without a business license?
How you gonna find them? They don't have a business license.
She's been operating without one.
It comes to me, it seems like it could be just like it's private property and you're just doing your own thing on your private property, even though you're leasing it, because you don't have a business license. So it's like you don't have a status within the city to operate, and that's one of the problems that we done had for years in the city. People just pop up and do things because we don't have anybody to go out there, and I think Ms. Betty put that in her budget this year for APOS people to go out there and kind of shut those things, at least be out there and be observant and try to do something to that nature. But, you know, we regulate and authorize business license from a council standpoint, but on the enforcement part, we have nothing to do with it.
let's see if we can, Mr. President, and I'm probably not legal, but we'll ask anyway. Ms. Stacy, any way we can require the landlord, if someone's running a bar, running a retail, if you're gonna rent them space and they require a business license, for you renting space, they've gotta have a business license. I mean, if I'm gonna sell hamburgers, I gotta have a health department inspection. I mean, I'm just grasping at straws, guys. Hold the landlords responsible.
And I agree with you. The landlord should have insurance on his property. So if you're leasing something to someone that don't have a business license, it still comes your responsibility because you're the person that's licensed with the city to do business.
Yeah, that's,
No,
No?
because if you want a liquor license, what we routinely tell people is you go out and we tell them you come here first, right? Get your liquor license before you go out and invest all this money and then come here and get denied. Instead, they usually go out, invest all this money, and then they get denied. So if they go lease property that they want to turn into whatever, a restaurant,
pool
club,
hall.
they don't have to have a business license to prepare to open that business.
But what I'm hearing Mr. Samansky say, they're operating out of his business already.
Right,
So we have to prove that they're operating what you're telling me.
right.
Who's gonna go check it?
Go check it out. CC now will do some recon.
No, not me.
the big gun thing probably scared us away.
All right, we had enough time on that item. Let's move on.
Item 18, resolution authorizing execution of agreement for feasibility study for Montgomery portion of Selma to Montgomery Trail.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, item 16, I think 6, where we at, Bill? 18, 19, and 20. Those are contracts. And so I have a resolution for those contracts with me, and I can pass them out at this time.
No, sir, what you have is in addition to these.
Okay, in addition to those 3, so
Yes,
we
sir.
have 8 additional, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we do have those, oh, I see them now, we're back. Thank you, Ms. Brennan.
Mr. President, are these ARPA contracts? Or Montgomery Drive, or,
Yeah.
I thought we exempted ARPA contracts from, for,
We did, but these have some significant changes in scope of the work. So to meet the compliance rules when it comes to ARPA, the council originally passed a resolution to enter the city into contracts to do these projects. There's some scope changes in these projects and funding changes that require the council to come back and approve those changes.
So these was in the omnibus package that we passed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Item 21, application for a lounge retail liquor class 1 license, doing business as Magnum Opus Cigars, 2921 Chestnut Street.
She stepped out. We'll have a public hearing on that in the regular meeting.
22, application for special retail more than 30 days liquor license, doing business as, and the name of that one has changed. And hold on just a second, council. They changed the names on all 3 of these for PCH, and I just got them.
Yeah, it's with the Renaissance.
Yeah, and they changed the names of them, and I will have that ready for you at council meeting.
All right. Mr. General, you want to talk about those?
But 21, 22, and 23 are all for the same thing at different locations. They're taking over these establishments.
All right. We got you.
Item 24, application for a restaurant retail liquor license. Oh, that's also the same thing, 24.
All right.
And then 25 is the nuisance resolution.
All right. Any questions from the council before we go into our public communication?
Yeah,
All right.
I got a question, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Grant.
Mr. Reed, seems like every other day I'm getting calls that we have slow response time with 911. I had a Chief Master Sergeant at Maxwell that his father passed away the other day. Couldn't get him. Got to his dad's house. He was dead. It may not have made a difference, but after an hour and 10 minutes, 911 not answering, he finally realized he knew a policeman and called somebody. What can we do? I mean, can we merge with, does the county have a 911? Can we have one 911 system? Because this is not working.
So I'll speak to that, and we get many of the same calls, and oftentimes, and I'm not saying in this case, but oftentimes when we do the forensics on it, the phone call is answered. Is it dispatched, and how is it dispatched is the question. Our 911 folks are answering every possible call they can, but if you know, we've talked about this before, and we're really working hard on trying to, and actually have made some leeway in recruiting folks for those positions. But right now, our 911 and dispatch have roughly about 56 positions. We have about 26 positions filled. So we're down 30 out of the 56. So, yes. And so folks have said, hey, can you use a call center to do this? But you have to have training because there's liability that goes along with taking those calls. If you don't take those calls in a certain way and provide the appropriate information for those calls, which is voluminous, because there's a CAD system that our callers use that they have to go through and check all those questions. So it's not like you call and you say, hey, I'm having an issue with some noise nuisance. They have to go through, every call requires that protocol. But I will tell you this, is that they are triaging calls as they go along. And so it's just like if you're at the emergency room. And you know the frustration that happens at the emergency room. If you got a headache and a sneeze and a cough, typically you're gonna wait longer because they are triaging patients as they come in, that a gunshot wound, someone's been in a car wreck and such. So that's the same thing that's happening in the 911. We have about 14 people in the queue that we've gotten through the application process. Now they're gonna have to come in and interview. But here's the other part of it. When we start going through the training, a lot of folks don't realize what that job entails. And it's a very tough job.
I have no doubt.
And folks come to us and they soon decide this isn't the career choice that they would like to make. So it's one of those career fields, just like PD and others, and law enforcement and public safety, that it's hard to fill those jobs because folks, we get them in, but once we start training them and they understand what the job entails, they typically say, this is not for me. But to that issue, I'd ask the council to let me know anytime they get those type of responses.
Okay.
We may not be able to fix it in real time, but we can at least do the forensics and make sure we get the information right to the community and those members that were out there. I will tell you that there's some, there's some things that we're working on. I actually talked to Sheriff Cunningham and his team. We had gone to one channel to allow for our sheriff's department to help answer calls. We've worked some things out so we can go back to 3 channels, and the sheriff department will still be able to hear calls on our central channel and be able to respond to those. So we've worked that out. So I think that will remedy some of it. I won't say it's going to remedy it 100%. This is a personnel, once again, this is a personnel issue. If we get staffed up, then I think a lot of the complaints that we're hearing will then be mitigated.
I have no doubt, because once you're understaffed, then everybody else is working to death. I get it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mitchell.
Mr. Reed, Chief Graybones, I want to talk about that Alabama State is coming up on 100 years for us. We are going to have so many people in this city for the Turkey Day Classic, and all over the nation we have been seeing homecomings being disrupted by individuals that don't attend the school, individuals that's visiting. I had a conversation with President Ross, and he asked that the city have a bigger police presence at this game. I'm doing the drones for them. I think they are getting with Aaliyah. They're doing a drones for Aaliyah. And Mr. Reed and Chief, I just want to make sure that the city of Montgomery shows a real big presence. You're talking about 100 years. You're talking about tradition that shouldn't be interrupted by any individual. And it almost happened, I think, for homecoming when an individual had an assault rifle walking on campus. To be there and see those students and even my own daughter running for their lives, I just don't think we need to have a recap of what we just saw in Tuskegee. So I ask that this city show a presence, because revenue is what the city, and tourism is what this city is known for. I just want to make sure that we let the people of this city and any other city, when they come to enjoy the city of Montgomery, that they see the presence of Montgomery Police Department.
Councilman Mitchell, we really appreciate those words, and I know Chief Graybones continuously works with, coming from as the Chief of Police at ASU, has open lines of communication with them, and we're working with them for that support for the Turkey Day Classic. What I will say to that also is that this is, once again, as we talk about the ordinance that will be coming up here soon, that's a tool for if we decide to vote that down, that takes away a tool from our PD to be able to get folks who are open carrying weapons and not, at least from a constitutional perspective, cannot even engage with those individuals from a perspective of them having some suspicion. So that's why we're really fighting to keep that. And I know the state doesn't agree with that, but at the end of the day, these are tools we're trying to put in the toolbox for our PD to be able to then screen folks and say, do you have a license as you carry that weapon on this campus? Do you have and if they don't, we can confiscate that weapon. But as it stands, folks are allowed to carry weapons adjacent to the campus, near the campus, and as you know, that campus is a hallmark and historic in this community. But there are opportunities for folks to kind of get around security there, because I've been to a couple of games this year and I can see some of the gaps. We're going to address those gaps, but we can't be 100%. But one thing we could do is make sure those individuals, we have an opportunity to screen them as they come on the campus.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, in our work session, public communication roster, have missed performance review by Gilbert Hodgson and McCona Jones group.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Odysseus Lanier, and I am with McConnell Jones, and I'm the partner who leads our advisory and consulting practice. The city of Montgomery hired us, along with Banks, Philly and White, to conduct a performance review of 12 departments. Now, as a matter of definition, a performance review is not an audit. is to look at efficiency, effectiveness, and potential cost savings that will be derived from those in terms of enhancing performance. So we are here right now to basically complete phase 1, in which we're looking at a corrective action plan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Gilbert Hopkins, who is our director who leads this project, to come up, and we're going to go through our short presentation here, and I think it'll provide some perspective for all the council members in terms of what we're doing and what value we're adding to this whole scenario. Now, also I want to thank the Chief of Staff, I want to thank the Director of Finance and all the members of the departments that basically helped us get through this, because this was an exercise to assist, not an exercise to go through a gotcha like you would normally do in a financial audit. That's a testation. So at this point, I'm going to bring up Gilbert Hopkins, our director, who's in charge of this whole effort on the ground, and he will walk you through these slides pretty quickly. Thank you.
Mr. Lanier, before you leave, how long is this presentation?
Oh, he can get through that in 10 minutes or less.
Okay, well, let me do this. I have 3 other people, and then I'm going to yield that time to you, and I don't think they're going to take their 3 minutes.
Okay, we're good. We're good.
Okay, Ms. Valerie Smelly, I'll call you guys back up. Ms. Valerie Smelly, Martin Luther King, Montgomery Music and Arts Foundation.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I am here on behalf of the Montgomery Music and Arts Foundation. And it is that time of year again to celebrate the holiday of Martin Luther King. And we know that we always have the beautiful MLK birthday bash. Now, when I first started this project in 2023, I was asking God for at least 50 people, and about 300 showed up. In 2024, we had about 600 to show up. So we're ready for 2025, and I have brought a proposed budget for each of you to review, and I'm looking forward to each of you helping with this project, because one of the main purposes of anything that we do with the Montgomery Music and Arts Foundation is to create tourism. I've developed a relationship with Alabama Travel and Alabama Living, so they're gonna advertise this event for us from Huntsville to Mobile. So I'm looking forward to filling some hotel beds, selling some gas, and restaurants. Okay. So if I can just give each one of you a quick proposed budget.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll be out of your way.
Thank you, Ms. Smelly.
I'll pass it down for you. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Ms. Smelly? All right.
You want to tell them about the Christmas tree lighting that you having coming up?
Pardon?
You want to tell them about the Christmas tree lighting coming up?
Yes, we're going to have a Christmas tree lighting. Well, first of all, let me back up. On Saturday, we're going to have continue the tribute to Victor Tulane. As you all will be able to see, that Montgomery is growing in our history. So now the history of Victor Tulane has come up about his grocery store and the tremendous things he did in Montgomery. So we're going to finish that on Saturday from 11 until 12:30. Next Friday, we're going to compliment the city of Montgomery with District 3, and we're going to have an actual Christmas tree lighting.
Oh, so, that's why she asked you to talk about that?
Yes, she did.
Thank you, we got it.
She did.
Thank you, Ms. Smelly. Thank you, I'm trying to move on to get back to
I know how to follow instructions. Do we have enough of the budgets?
Yes, I think we do. We do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Bennett? Ms. Bennett, Women in Training.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the council president, Mr. Calhoun, and to all of our councilors, particularly our council for our area, Mr. Jinwright, but all of you, your honorable counselors. I'm here from Women in Training. Assisting me is Brooke Bennett, who is one of the founders of Women in Training, along with her twin sister, Brianna, who couldn't come because she has a test tomorrow. We are here requesting funding because our storage area, all of our products were completely destroyed by an incident in our storage unit. So we literally have nothing. It's like we're starting all over from day one with no products. We have Christmas coming up, Thanksgiving coming up, and girls depending on us for the WIT kits of menstrual supplies that we give out. The WIT kits contain a whole pack of Always period products, as well as shampoo, conditioner, lotion, soap, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush, floss, a pair of socks, and a handmade bracelet. Each bag is valued at $50. We have several events besides Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up in March to kick off Women's History Month. March 1st, we have our annual WIT Mother-Daughter Brunch, which last year we had 550 women and children and girls attend that to celebrate womanhood and the joys and blessings that come with that. March 2nd, we're going to be in Montgomery, Whitewater for our 5th annual WIT 5K. Then every October we have the International Day of the Girl Festival. This year we use the City of Montgomery train shed. So those are our 3 major events, but beyond those, every single month we're giving out WIT kits at $50 a pop. Councilor Beard was with us at South University 2 weekends ago, where we gave out 100 WIT kits to college students at that university. So we're seeking support in the amount of $25,000, which would provide 500 WIT kits for the next few coming months to replenish our supplies that were all lost.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Consideration. Mr. Quentin Miller. And then you guys will be up next.
Good evening, esteemed board, members of this council. Thank you for this opportunity, space of time. I would also like to personally thank President C.C. Calhoun, Council Chairman, also who is over the District 5, is which I am the proud owner of Iron Sharpen Iron LLC, that is a fitness center here in the city. I have worked and been a blessing to a lot of people here in the city, far and near. Have worked with, been a fitness professional, for well over 10 years with amputees, stroke victims, and currently my client is former Senator Coach Burkett, who also invited me to this opportunity to be here as well. We work with stroke victims and patients, and stroke victims, patients, recovery, also those that are disabled, as well as the youth and diabetic people in diabetes prevention. We understand that if those you don't know that diabetes, after they are amputee, the lifespan is cut to only 2 years. So we're looking to prevent those measures with that in the fitness and wellness health field. Also, I work with state protocols such as Well Woman of Alabama Wellness Coalition, and I'm also the personal physical conditioning coordinator with St. Paul AME Church here in the city, that is working with the satellite school that is to Valiant Crossing, the all-boys school here in the city. And so we're looking to expand and just kind of be more than just in health and wealth. We want to start a fitness and health and wellness clinic here in the city. I don't have time to just go over all of the details and give a formal proposal of what we're trying to do in the suspension. I just wanted to be formally represented and also just to let you know who I am. And I would also like to personally invite Mr. Calhoun to the facility in which we can discuss further in details of this expansion and what we're trying to do in this health and wellness facility. We have a lot of things going on, a lot of things that's involved in this. We also in council with health professionals. We're in council with nurse practitioners, therapists as well as those in the pharmaceutical industry as well. So we're trying to expand and take a holistic approach from blood types, wholeness and nutritional gain and education in this endeavor. So I thank you all for your time and this space and opportunity. I will be in private communication with President Calhoun here, and we will further let you know on these endeavors of what we're trying to do.
Thank you. I look forward to talking with you about it, Quentin. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, McConnell? Yes,
Good
sir.
evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present our results of our performance review. As my supervisor or DC has mentioned, my name is Gilbert Hopkins. I am the project manager for our performance review. Next slide. Yes, my challenge this evening is to essentially condense more than 12 months of intense work into essentially 4 slides. And that's what I would like to do. I think I'll meet that challenge and get out of your way. First of all, what did we do? Let me explain what we did. We established 69 research objectives as we reviewed 11 city departments. Let me give you a quick example of what a research objective is. For example, for the building maintenance department, we would have established a research objective that said that building maintenance in the city of Montgomery should be proactive instead of reactive. And that would mean that there would need to be procedures and policies around preventive maintenance. And so we would establish that as a research objective, and we replicated that across all of the departments that we reviewed. We might also establish a research objective that said that there ought to be written and documented policies and procedures to guide day-to-day activities and to memorialize what's done. So we established those research objectives, and then during our work, we would evaluate whether those research objectives were met, whether they were partially met, or whether they were not met. And any objective that was either not met or partially met resulted in a recommendation. That's what we did. Now, what did we find? We were able to consolidate or categorize 60 recommendations. We made 60 recommendations. We were able to categorize those 60 recommendations into 5 general categories. In fact, there were 37 recommendations of those 60, or 62%, that fell into one of these categories: technology, planning, personnel, staffing, policies and procedures, and management reporting. And as you can see on the slide, with respect to technology, we determined that there was a need to either implement new technology or to maximize existing technology. In the area of planning, we discovered that there was a lack of forethought and strategic planning. Work was pretty much reactive and just responding to whatever the current crisis was. And so we said there needs to be more intentional, overarching strategic planning in these areas. Thirdly, we identified issues with personnel staffing. We discovered that many employees over the next few years would be retiring, and that the city needed a policy and a program and a strategy to backfill those vacancies that would be occurring, and also to fill existing vacancies. Thirdly, policies and procedures. There needed to be a structured format where what the activities, day-to-day activities, could be documented so that when new employees come in, they would pretty much have some idea of what the department does and how to do it. We found that there was a lack of policies and procedures, and it was pervasive. And then finally, management reporting. How do you communicate information? How do you tell the story of the department? We found that there were opportunities to improve management reporting through robust management reports and through telling the story in a way that would allow the leaders of these departments to make data-driven decisions. So that's what we found. We categorized that in 5 categories of those 60 recommendations. Next slide, please. What was the fiscal impact of our recommendations? We estimated a net savings of $2 million in year one of implementation and $2.3 million annually thereafter, for a consolidated estimated net savings of approximately $11.2 million over 5 years. And I won't bore you with the details because you have them in front of you in terms of the recommendations that were met, partially met, or not met in each of the departments that reviewed, the total recommendations, and then the fiscal impact of those recommendations. And you can see that the total impact is $11.2 million over 5 years. Most of that occurring in the fire department administration. So you have on this slide both investment and net savings and the net result. Next slide, please. Now, what's next? We've done all of this work, and typically, sometimes to our disappointment, we do work and the report sits on the shelf. Not so at the City of Montgomery. The vision is such that the City of Montgomery understands the value of the work that was done, and so we are going to assist in the implementation of the recommendations that we have made. So that's what's next. In fact, we're here this week to begin that process through a series of workshops where we're sitting down with the departments that we reviewed and looking at how we can be involved in making those recommendations come alive. And we are going to do that in 4 phases, 4 stages. The first stage, we've called it set and scope. The second stage is design and assign, divide and execute, then monitor and report. Set and scope. What that involves is we had a kickoff meeting this past summer, and we determined what the scope of the implementation, the corrective action plan implementation should be. We established goals and objectives, expectations, impediments, and we established a timeline. So that stage is pretty much over. Design and assign is the stage that we're pretty much in this week, where we're identifying the corrective action plan implementation teams in the various departments, assigning roles and responsibilities for each recommendation that we made. We're doing workshops this week with those individuals. We're going to have, over the next several months, collaborative communication. We're going to identify risk and mitigation strategies. We're going to identify any issues that could be impediments. And so this is where the real work is done, where the sausage is made, if you will. Then the third stage is, once we identify what needs to be done, we're going to divide and execute. What we mean by that is there will be certain things that McConnell Jones will do, there will be certain things that the process owners with the city will do, and there will be certain activities that will be shared, if you will, where there will be a combination of what we can do and what the city employees will do. And so that will be, we'll divide and then we'll execute the specific actions that we identify. And then finally, the last stage will be monitor and report. So we'll have a comprehensive corrective action plan. We'll monitor that plan. We'll monitor the milestones, the timelines, hold people's feet to the fire to make sure that they fulfill their action steps. And so by the end of the project, we'll make sure that the recommendations that are implementable are in fact implemented. And we will provide status reports along the way so that we can keep track of what's done and what needs to be done. So that is the next slide. It's time for questions.
Mr. President.
Ms. Johnson?
Divide and execute. Can you give me estimated timeline on when you'll be approaching the action implementation and policy and procedure documentation? What's the timeline to approaching that?
I'll give you the timeline for the entire project, which is, I'd say April, May 2025. Okay. Now, in terms of specific policies and procedures, it's going to depend upon the department. For example, Armory Athletics, if you will. I know that because I did that department, that they have a need for written and documented policies and procedures. So when I met with them today, that will be one of the action plans. Now, once we establish what those policies and procedures should be, then we will set a timeline on that. It may be January, it may be the 1st of, I'm just speculating here, 1st of March for Armory Athletics. Now, for example, for fleet management, You know, their operating environment is totally different. And so if there are policies and procedures that need to be written and documented for fleet management, they may have a longer timeline. But at the end of the day, our hope and our ambition is that by May 2025, all of these recommendations that are implementable will be implemented. Does that answer your question?
It does. And because that isn't already established, is there something your firm you're sitting next to them side by side, giving a guideline, a template of what they should follow when they're writing this out for their department?
That's exactly right. And so what we're doing this week is literally sitting side by side and going through the recommendations that we made. Because one of the things that we did is we conducted a survey before we came out this week, and we asked them, where are you with respect to implementing the recommendations that we made? Have you established an implementation team? Have you established a timeline? And in some instances, they'll say yes, and we'll say, okay, show us the documentation. You say that you have a strategic plan. Let's see the strategic plan. We'll look at that strategic plan, and if there are improvements we can make, we'll make those improvements. We'll assist you with that. In some instances, they'll say, we haven't moved the needle at all on this recommendation. And so we'll say, okay, let's divide the responsibility. What do we need to do to get this done? They'll tell us what they need to do, and we'll say, okay, McConnell Jones, we can take care of that. If you need policies and procedures documented, okay, we can do that. We can draft those procedures for you, and then we will go over them with you, holding their hand, and we will determine what works, what doesn't work, and so we're working in collaboration. But McConnell Jones will establish or will provide the format, if you will, to get that done.
All right. So we got a $11 million savings from this, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Estimated $11 million in savings for the
yes,
city?
over a 5-year period.
Over
yes,
5 year, and
yes.
our cost is $2.1 million?
Per year.
Our cost is $2.1 million?
Well, the $2.1 million, I believe, was the first year for implementation.
Is that the contract or not?
That's savings.
That's the
No,
savings.
savings is 11.
No, 11 and 5
Okay.
years.
Over 5 years.
Over 5 years, though.
Yeah, the 11.2 is over 5 years.
So, will you send the council a copy
Mr.
of
Jenwright,
those?
you done? Hold on, Ms. Jones. You finished, Mr. Jenwright? Charlie, you done? You still got questions?
I see that.
Okay. All right, Ms. Jones.
I was just gonna ask for copies of the recommendations that you gave out, because there's one slide you had all of the recommendations, how many it was, and all of
Yes.
the.
You want to go back to that slide? Would you
No,
like to?
I would like a copy of it sent to us in email.
I
Okay.
think we have a copy of that. We can get sent out to the whole council.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get that to you.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Mitchell?
Not to him, Mr. President, but I do have another issue I want to address.
Okay, Mr. Mitchell?
We done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. President, I get so many calls, and I'm hoping somebody from street maintenance or traffic engineering, when the water company or the gas company comes out and do any cutting for as the pavement is concerned, I get so many calls from my constituents asking about, are we in control of that? And I just want to make sure that the public understand that, you know, it's 3 compression tests, and, you know, we are getting beat up because they think that that's the cities that's doing that work, and I want somebody to address it so the public can understand what's actually going on.
Can you hear me? Okay, there it goes. Mr. Mitchell, yes, sir, there's a permitting process. If it's a regularly scheduled issue, there's a permit process in which we issue a permit and we monitor that, and we tell them exactly what they have to do to fix it back after they cut the street. Obviously, if it's a situation where you've got an emergency in the middle of the night, maybe a water main bust, that's something we just kind of have to work through on the fly. But we are aware of those, and if something does happen in the middle of the night, we send crews out in the middle of the night to be there with them. Donald Thomas, if you don't know, Donald has been doing this for years. He's very educated and been doing it for a long time. He's very good at staying on top of those issues. So if there are specific complaints, they certainly can contact the street maintenance department with those complaints to make them aware of it. So we do have processes and procedures for that.
And can you kind of give us a time frame? Because some people think that it should be repaved immediately.
Oh, sure.
Can you give us a time frame, generally how long that takes?
Sure. Usually what we do, like somebody's, for instance, cut the street to do a water tap or something, usually you'll see initially that cut will be done, the tap will be tied into, and they'll backfill with stone initially. And the reason we do that initially with stone is to allow that to settle a little bit. Then they'll come back and put an asphalt patch on top of the stone. We usually like to let that sit for, we call it season, and settle for approximately about, minimum is 6 months. And so then once that has settled for that period of time, because if we don't allow it that time to settle, what will happen over time? If we immediately repave, there would be a bump in the street right there, then the citizens will be upset because there's a bump in the street. So we try to give it the appropriate time to settle. And the contractors, they compact it and all themselves, but they still, things are still going to settle over time as traffic drives over it. So we try to give it the appropriate time to settle so that when we do repave that lane or that segment, it stays nice and smooth for a long period of time. So.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you.
Council got anything else?
No, sir, Mr. Vice President.
I do, Mr. Pro Tem.
Okay.
And this is just outside of what we've discussed yeah, what we discussed on the agenda. I recently read an article with Montgomery Advertiser where one of our shopping centers sold for several millions of dollars to an out-of-state firm. And we've had this discussion in the Commerce Committee previously about to ensure that out-of-state property owners, especially in a huge shopping center, they're paying the appropriate taxes and getting the appropriate license to operate in the city of Montgomery. So for this one in particular, and any other that may come up, I wanted to ask Mr. Reed that we get the license department to look at this particular, the Promenade North Shopping Center that's on East Boulevard, to ensure that they have their license to operate in the city of Montgomery, and we start charging appropriate fees for those out-of-state owners when we get alerted that they've purchased.
Okay, copy that.
All right, council, the hour's 5:07. We'll reconvene in 10 minutes at 5:17 or 5:20. We'll just do 5:20.